Secondhand Therapy is presented by Pony Bear Studios.
Grrr.
Jesus.
That's a bear.
It's not. Hello, little bear cubs. This episode of Secondhand Therapy is sponsored by BetterHelp. And, you know, they want us to tell you the benefits of therapy, but it's kind of the show.
Right?
If you listen to us, you know, we're pro-therapy. You used BetterHelp recently, yes?
I have. I just signed up.
How'd it go?
It's great. I got to pick my own therapist. They have a bunch, there's like 2 or 3 pages of people that I got to choose from. And I just started a few sessions ago.
Nice. Have you used their journal feature?
I have not seen that yet, but I'm excited to because I love a digital journal.
Who doesn't love a digital journal? Yeah, we're excited to have them as a new sponsor. You know, you went to BetterHelp because you were in between insurance.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and maybe you're in between insurance, maybe you don't have insurance, it's a good resource to start therapy. And if you listen to the show and you've been wanting to get into therapy and you don't really know where to start, BetterHelp's a good option. And they were nice enough to give us a discount code. If you're listening and you want to start with BetterHelp, go to betterhelp.com/secondhandtherapy and you get 10% off your first month. All the info will be in the episode description below. Get in therapy, you know?
It's great. Check it out. Welcome back to Secondhand Therapy. I want to remind you that we are not therapists. We are not licensed professionals. This is not a substitute for therapy.
We're not experts.
And we're not experts. I almost had it.
Mm-hmm.
I was very close.
Yep.
Anyways.
This is not professional advice in any way.
That's what I said.
And you didn't. You abandoned it completely.
Did I?
I'm pretty sure you just stopped. Yeah. We got it.
We got that.
We're not therapists. We're not experts. This is not a substitute for therapy. This is not professional advice in any way.
However, this is
an episode.
A very special episode.
This is our 100th episode.
100, baby.
Episode 100. We can kill ourselves. Finally.
God, finally, the last episode. And
hey, wherever you're listening to this, give us a 5-star review and follow the show.
Yes, please.
You fucks. I'm sorry.
Wow, be nice to them.
I'm sorry.
Today is guest day. We have a very special guest.
We do. We're leaving. We're packing up the studio and we're going down to the MGM Grand.
We're headed to the Strip.
Oh my God. Pack up all this shit, dude.
We're heading down.
Cancel it.
To the green room.
Cancel it.
Of Brad Garrett's Comedy Club inside the MGM Grand right here in Las Vegas on the Strip. And we're going to be setting up there and sitting down with the man himself, Brad Garrett.
You might know him.
You might have seen him or heard him.
You might have seen him. He was the Strangler on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that one time.
That is true.
He was the banker on Roseanne.
Mm-hmm.
He was a mechanic, Tony, on Seinfeld.
I love Tony.
He was in season 3 of Fargo.
Yes.
Did a couple Jimmy John's commercials.
Nothing else to note really besides Emmy-winning actor, movie star, comedy icon.
Oh, that's right. He's also an Emmy winner for one of the biggest shows of all time, Everybody Loves Raymond. That's right.
That's right. That's where I know him from.
Yeah. And also a comedy icon and a legend, I would say.
Yeah. Incredible human being. So we're going to sit down and talk with him this afternoon. We hope you enjoy it. While you're here, leave. Go on over to Patreon. There's ad-free episodes.
This shit was out on Friday over there.
Yeah, you already heard it. Head on over to Patreon, ad-free episodes. A completely different podcast is available with over 50 episodes now streaming for you. And also, you can see clips of that show on Instagram. It's on Instagram now, The Other Shit Show.
If you want a little taste.
Also, we have merch available, all that fun stuff. And you can always contact us, mail us, whatever you got. All that information is in the description. We're glad you're here.
Along with the BetterHelp link.
And
go to therapy.
On Patreon, there are after the pod episode, like episodes, clips,
bonus
what are they?
yeah,
bonus
whatever.
things.
It's usually like an extra 10, 15, sometimes 45 minutes.
Sometimes
Where we
45
keep
minutes.
yapping after the public episode's done. So go check us
if you're
out. It's a
interested in
good
any
way.
of that, head on over to Patreon.
It's a good way to support the pod.
Enjoy this episode. We appreciate it. We love you. Thanks for being here. Enjoy.
Enjoy, you fucks.
Be nice.
I'm sorry. I'm so excited to go talk to Brad.
Happy 100.
Happy. Is it, though? Hello, my little bear cubs, and welcome back.
Secondhand Therapy.
When you look back, now being sober,
Yeah.
why were you escaping feelings? Were you?
I was escaping feelings, reality, unfinished business, dread, grief, things that I wasn't ready to unpack fully.
Yeah.
I grew up really quick. I ended up kind of raising my parents, who both suffered from mental illness, both of them very different types and in different ways. And I love getting high. There you go. I love being buzzed because I had trouble turning my head off. But at the end of the day, I knew it was killing me.
Yeah.
And it was going to, because I have, I have a very high tolerance for carbs, for really anything. So everybody would be under the table, hours before me, and I was, doing a fifth of vodka and half a bag of weed, and sometimes a little this, a little that, and it just, when I started blacking out. And, waking up with one shoe on in a strange town, it was like, wow, I'm going to have to, because, I would party heavy when I was down, and I would party heavy when things were great, like any other addict.
Yeah.
We don't need reasons.
Yeah.
So
there's always a reason.
There's always a reason.
Yeah. And
it was just, I just knew. It was interesting. I knew I wanted to be a father. That was just always in my DNA. And I had a great relationship with my dad growing up, though it was complicated because he was bipolar. And, when I was growing up, nobody knew what that was. They just thought he was, kind of, off the wall and spontaneous and fun and, highly emotional. And, but he was, I was like not just his kid, I was his wingman in life. And the relationship of father-son to best friend blurred a little bit, though, to be quite honest, I needed it because, my mom lived in bed. She was, manic depressive, recluse, agoraphobiac, bipolar as well, but had the fits of rage and the just huge swings. Where my dad, he was so ahead of his time. I mean, when my parents got divorced, it was really rough on me. And, my mom played everything out loud. And it was...
How old were you when they got divorced?
I was 7.
Okay.
And I really started struggling. And by 10, I was an emotional wreck. I had a bunch of tics that I would do. Actually, if you spent any time with me, people thought I wanted them to steal third because I would be like this and scratch, and then we'd bunt to the black fella. I have to throw a little of it in, so I don't want
for it.
Yeah.
So my dad was so smart, he knew that when I was 9 or 10, I needed some therapy. And he was in therapy, believe it or not, which in the late 60s, it was almost like a...
it's very taboo.
Very taboo, but I needed it. And he found me an incredible therapist who I was friends with up until 5 years ago when he passed, which really, that's the movie, a 9-year-old becoming a 60-year-old, and he still hangs out with his therapist. So my dad was, even though he struggled, he was always rallying to get there, but he wouldn't do the meds, which he desperately needed. And to be honest with you, he was diagnosed very late in life. And bipolarity, even, gosh, he was diagnosed, maybe 25 years ago. They didn't know what they were doing yet for it. And the meds were very, different and extreme, and it was different cocktails, and let's try this. And it just, it wore him down. It wore him down, but he had a heart of gold and an incredible humor. And it kept me alive. I loved my mom dearly. I'm not sure what happened. I think 90% of it was chemical. It's either nurture or nature, they say, but I usually think it's both, or a little of each. We had interventions with her. She was really into the downers and the sleeping pills. And, I had two older brothers, and we all tried to really, they kind of they were over it. They were done. They kind of moved on. And me being the youngest and the last left in the house kind of felt a responsibility to keep them both alive, striving, okay. I think a lot of us become comics because we live in a childhood where we're trying to keep our parents happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you've talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt that responsibility with my mother. I felt a lot of responsibility with my mother about, she was, I was just her whole identity, her whole world. And I think she wanted to hold on to that as long as she could. And the older I got and the more freedom that I had, then it was like the more trouble for her.
That's what I went through.
Yeah.
I literally, boy, she lived vicariously through,
Yeah.
It's interesting when parents kind of watch their child ascend in something that an industry maybe they were attracted to. It's a very fine line between support and envy.
Yeah.
And it was difficult. My dad could have been a stand-up. My dad was incredibly quick and funny. But, his childhood was being beaten by his father. My dad was, beaten up by a very tough dad often. A lot of emotional abuse as well, and verbal abuse. And, the poor guy just, dealt with a lot of that. My mom, I just think there was heavy-duty chemical stuff, which was on both sides of the family, my mom's side, my dad's side. So I could snap any fucking minute. I mean, I'm just letting you both know. You're not that far from me. It's a hit.
What, so do you think that triggered any codependency in you, like that caretaker vibe that you had with your parents?
Huge. And it also makes you a control freak.
Yeah.
Which I'm still battling. I'm still working on that. I'm still working on all my shit. Some stuff came up a few months ago that I never really unpacked about grief. My best friend, my dad, my brother all passed within like a 16-month period.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I just tried to keep everyone buoyant. And, look, I think most performers are control freaks. We're in a business that we're attracted to that has zero rules, zero control. And it's like, I'm going to control my destiny, which we can only do about half of it, right? But when you grow up and there's chaos, as a kid, you're trying to raise your parents, keep them safe when it's supposed to be the other way around. And you white knuckle shit as a kid because you're like, wow, this is heavy. I got to walk to school. But, she's on the ground looking for, we don't know what. My dad is being sued every minute from one ex-wife to my mom. My mom is sending the sheriffs to my dad's work for more alimony. And, this is all going on. And how do I navigate that? So I think we become very controlling people because that was our survival. So then you hit addiction, and the biggest thing about addiction is surrendering. Well, how can I go from a control freak to now letting go everything that kept me alive? And that's the transition that I'm still, going through. When I was able to tap into my gratefulness, because I do have to tell you, as weird as this sounds, there was a lot of love around me. They were just people that loved with conditions.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a lot of, I know it sounds trite to say unconditional love, but they did the best they could. They had no tools. My dad wasn't hugged. He wasn't loved. He wasn't cared for. My mom was, but she hated men, and she had 3 sons and 3 husbands. And when you don't like men, I think what happened, which will leave a mark, but there are many people who get over this. This is traumatic, but she found out that my grandfather, something I've never shared, by the way, never shared this. My grandfather was having an affair, and my mom and her sister found out before their mom.
Oh.
And what was interesting about this is my mom supported her dad and turned on her mom.
Wow. Interesting.
That's a lot to carry, too.
Yeah, that's a lot to carry. And we would talk about it, or I would try to talk about it. And it was like he was the greatest man in the world. She validated it almost. It was, and this is what is so interesting about the human mind. She did not like men. And when there was a breach of what her father did in this family, she sided with the man. And the only time in her life, and we would, but I tried everything, we tried to get her to therapy. Even when I wanted her, my therapist when I was a kid was like, it'd be great to have your mom in here. My dad would always show, and we would deal through stuff and things like that. And I never forgot my dad, before he passed, he was on his 6th marriage, which just went south. Before he passed. Okay.
The charm,
6, baby, right?
That's
exactly.
Yeah.
And
every man needs a hobby,
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of, and it was so funny because by the 6th marriage, no one showed. And he was like, and my dad kind of talked like this. It was between my voice and Robert's voice on Raymond.
Okay.
And he goes, where is everyone? And I said, Dad, it's your 6th marriage. You have 11 toasters and 9 blenders. People, it's just you, me.
Yeah.
And when my dad kind of went a little south mentally, and it happened later in life, and there were some very painful things for him, for me. He burnt out so many people in his life because of his illness. When you're bipolar, it's really tough to hang with someone after a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
He had huge issues with women.
Yeah.
Big time, obviously, but he needed to be with anyone.
Yeah.
He just, the fear of alone. The toughest thing I had to probably learn in my life was how to be with myself. It's the last person we want to be with. That's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
I was, I didn't, when I was alone, the voices were a cavalcade of regret and guilt and shit. See, what was so weird is like my mom also, bless her heart, also suffered from bulimia. We didn't know this.
Yeah.
So what she would do, this is heavy, This will help you. You know, you may leave here high-fiving strangers when you hear they buy. But my mom, she was, you know, a very attractive woman and a hell of a kisser. And no, she's very attractive. And I remember her when I was 7, looking in the mirror, like when she was 33, the first wrinkle, the first thing, she would freak out, you know, and she had a real issue with any kind of aging. At 30, she was just crazed about it, and a beautiful woman, but she was bulimic, and she didn't want anyone to know it. But we lived in a small house growing up, and after every dinner, we'd hear her, you know, throwing up.
Yeah.
And my brother's room, my middle brother Paul, who you know, was up against her bathroom. And he would go, "Why is mom?" And to hide it, she would create an argument at dinner
So nobody would bother her, and she would.
to blame us. She would come up with these issues that didn't exist, and she would blame us and get us riled to where we hit back. My brother Paul, he was the inward one. My brother Jeff was like, "Oh, fuck this." He'd split for 3 days. And I was, you know,
Peacekeeper,
yeah, you know, doing Cosby to her before he was a rapist, you know, to settle her down. And she would just be like, "I can't take this. You'll never understand me. You're terrible sons. You're killing me." She said a lot. So we would think when we heard the vomiting, that was created from the argument.
I was like, she was trying to create the illusion it was emotional.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I didn't get this till I was like in my 30s.
Yeah.
I didn't put it together. I thought it was, you know, really, you know, and again, you know, it is emotional and psychological bulimia and body image and everything else. It's a very painful reality. And, but it was like, oh my God, because, you know, we were always felt responsible, not just for our parents, but for their shortcomings.
And it's also, I mean, how can you, one, look at it objectively as a child, and two, even come to the idea that your mother is not only lying to you, but manipulating you. That's a hard reality to face. When I know you
This guy's good.
Oh, yeah.
This guy's good.
yeah, I know you, because you had phrased it as, "I hadn't put it together."
Yeah.
And even if you did, I would run away from that till I in my 30s too. That's a really hard thing to face.
It is, and I've battled with trust with women my whole life, big time.
Makes
so
sense.
did my father, you know. But trust was just a huge issue for me. And she would also, you know, she had this thing where she wanted to be loved and accepted so much that she had this flirtatious, coquettish, manipulative thing she would do to other men, whether they were someone who she just met. And she would do this in front of my stepfather, in front of her boys. You know, she would be a little playful with our friends, which was odd.
Yeah.
Nothing ever inappropriate, but things that were taken that way.
Yeah.
Because they were on the fence of being a little out there for a mother. But she would do this, you know, she hated men that she loved setting them up.
Yeah.
And why she would flirt with a guy she would never follow through with, obviously. My stepdad, who was incredibly insecure, poor guy. So she would hurt two at once. Yeah. The guy she was hitting on and, you know, her third husband, who was my stepdad. And again, a guy that was never hugged, never loved. You know, he would hug you like a robot type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, that Christian hug where
Yeah.
they don't want you to touch their boobies,
Yeah.
that type of stuff. But the older I get, I unpack more, which is usually as people age, they do the opposite. You know, I never want to stop working on me. I owe it to myself. I owe it to my children. I owe it to Izzy, my wife, because I just want to be the best form of it. And I spent so many years hiding. You know, there's a big difference between responsibility and surrendering. And people think that when you surrender, you can let go of all responsibility, which really what surrendering is for me is taking responsibility, because I'm getting rid of the baggage and the shit and the addiction and the lies and the bad script and everything else. But with that comes responsibility that I'm trying to tap into more, and a forgiveness and a you know, the shame that we carry is crippling, and you know, I feel a lot of it. You know.
What does forgiveness look like now that you're sober and you have like this better lens to look through and stuff like that? Like, what does forgiveness look like now for you?
For me, it's focusing on the growth, forgiving my time I lived in a very selfish world, making people know that, you know, the shit I might have been to them. It was mostly to myself, because I was what they call that happy addict, that happy drunk. I'd walk into a bar, I'd buy a round for the bar so no one could see I was the alcoholic type of thing.
Yeah.
So I think the surrender and the forgiveness kind of go hand in hand. Mostly it's forgiving the people that made life difficult for me. You know, because my growth only increases, and my forgiveness and my sobriety really only increases my love for those that didn't have the opportunity. I wish my dad was able to get on the right med, to do the right therapy. You know, I wish my mom would have been open to an antidepressant. I mean, she lived in bed, you know. And it was odd because when both parents passed, and I literally thought of this today driving over here. This is the power you guys have over small talk.
Yeah.
When my mom and my dad passed, I was the only one at their bedside.
Wow.
Really? No other siblings, no other family members, nothing?
My oldest brother had passed.
Hmm.
Paul was stage 4
Yeah.
and couldn't get out of bed. My mom didn't know Paul was dying. Paul couldn't make it to the funeral. He was so sick. And she had full-blown dementia at that point, my mom. And that was okay. And with my father, you know, I was very protective over him. When he passed, he tried to have a relationship with my brothers. They were from my mom's first marriage. When my dad and my mom had me, I was his only real natural child. My brothers were half-brothers or step-brothers. But my mom loved to conquer and divide, right? So anytime there was a relationship with men, father, son, brothers, whatever, she would try to sabotage the relationship. So my mom, you know, bad-rapped my father so much that it made it very difficult, because my dad adopted my brothers, who were technically half-brothers, but they had a brutal thing. Their father walked out on my 2 brothers to never return. And my brothers were never in a therapy. They would never look into therapy. They had no addiction issues. They just got through life. They white-knuckled it. I begged them. I said, when your dad walks out and never returns, you know, I'm fine with it. Fuck him. I don't, you know, it was that thing. And I'm like, it isn't. It's eating away at you. It's, you know, I don't have to tell you guys, but I could never get them to see that. And one day, my oldest brother one day my oldest brother, Jeff, was really just an exceptional human, decided I'm going to go find my father. Spent a couple of years finding him, doing the detective thing everywhere else. Finds out he's 20 miles away. Shows up and goes, hey, I'm your son. I'm Jeff. And he goes, hey, Jeff, what's up? He says, you know, where you been? Type of thing. And the thing with my oldest brother is he was straightforward. It wasn't, it was just like, I had to see you. I had to know how you can walk out on two kids, and never, and that motherfucker said, Jeff, if I wanted to know you, I would have stayed.
Jesus.
And he called me that night and he goes, can you believe this motherfucker? But it was like, you know, you're talking about an old friend who doesn't remember going to high school with you.
Yeah.
I said, Jeff, this is, and it's funny, my middle brother, Paul, when Jeff went on the search, Paul's like, I don't want to be on that. I'm fine. My life is working. My life is, I don't want to be on that journey. He's gonna fucking reject you again. And Jeff goes, well, fuck him. At least I'll be able to face him. Let him reject me again. This time, not as a 7-year-old, but to my face.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that bastard did that. And, you know, again, you know, this is stuff we carry. And, you know, there are people that find other ways to deal. There are people, I believe, that really can work out their stuff, you know, they feel without therapy. And I admire that if they can really, really do the work. Therapy doesn't work for everybody. Just like when I came clean, I didn't take the AA route. I went to a couple meetings and though I believe in it 1,000%, there's nothing better than AA. It fucking works. You know, there's 100 ways to get clean.
Yeah.
And there's 3 ways to unpack your shit, maybe. But without someone on the outside with an objective, and hopefully you find a good therapist. I was very lucky. You know, I had a great therapist in my life, and I found an amazing one in my adult life. But it's, you know, it's tough to unpack shit because I think it's ongoing. I don't think it's because, you know, are we ever finished? Do you ever want to be finished? Growing, being, you know, I mean, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
There's no question. You know, I do take breaks. I do take things, you know, it's funny, you know, it's, I'm so grateful. I'm so lucky. I just wish I could have shared this with other people, but you know, you can't force anyone to get clean that needs it.
Yeah.
You can love someone more than you can imagine, and people have to want it. You have to want it, whether it's a career or a good marriage. Shit takes work, and you know, it's hard. It's hard, but boy, it's worth it. I think one of the things that really helped me stop using, and it's weird, but I knew I wanted to be a dad. I know I'm circling back. And I knew I couldn't put my kids to bed. I know it sounds so cliche, high or drunk. And I said, you know, I'm gonna clean up because this is something I want. And I cold turkeyed. I white knuckled it. I did a lot of therapy, but I was ready. See, I was ready. I was lucky. I didn't have an ugly bottom. I had a very revealing bottom. And I was ready, and I jumped into a marriage. This is where I could have used AA, they say, but thank God I did because I had 2 kids that are, you know, literally my life, but I was so euphoric after 8 months of sobriety, of heavy using for many years, that the clarity was coming back, and there was a tinge of gratefulness that to be alive, as opposed to now it's just, you know, daily obnoxious gratefulness is I could walk to Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that really helped it. But, the real work began when I stopped drinking. I thought stopping the using would really just be instant healing.
Yeah.
And it was medically, physically. I'm lucky to be alive, literally, because, I was using shit that would have put anybody else in an alcoholic coma or I never could have done the weed today. Thank God I stopped that. Weed was my main thing, man. I would roll over and light a bowl, and I went to bed with it. I loved. I just loved escaping. I loved escaping. I didn't party in high school. I had my first joint at 20, which is odd.
Did you like it immediately?
Oh my God! I just thought it was a great. It stopped the voices. It didn't. I was able to call my mom if I had 3 hits.
Yeah. I started going to Codependence Anonymous a couple months ago.
How was that?
It's been life-changing for me.
Love that.
Every week we've talked about it a little bit, but every week I sit there and we cover the topics and I go, man, this isn't about me.
Yeah.
And then I hear people start to share their stories and I'm like, oh, this is, and I end up sharing, and it's just so relatable, and it's so great to hear other people sharing these similar struggles that I couldn't place. I didn't know why I felt that way or those actions and things like that. But one of the things that almost turned me away from it was that higher power talk in the opening. And lucky enough, I was very lucky with this woman who came to me after the first session that I was at, and she said, she goes, hey, I'm also not a religious person. She's like, I just picked up on your vibe. She's like, I can tell you're not religious. And she's like, when they're talking about higher power, it's not necessarily God or whatever.
Right.
She's like, it could be anything. And if she hadn't have spoke to me about that, I think I would have turned away. But it was so refreshing to hear that it wasn't like this religious-based program. And that was scary to hear as an atheist,
Yeah, totally. And that's where I kind of bumped. It's funny. I did a lot of growth in Al-Anon. I started going to Al-Anon because I had people in my family that were struggling.
Yeah.
And this is during when I was many, many years sober. It was actually just a few years ago. And the Al-Anon actually not only helped me with the people in my life that were presently struggling, but it helped me go back to, I never looked at my mom as an addict. I looked at her as someone who had trouble sleeping,
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, her biggest supplier was my stepdad. And talk about Coda. When we were doing an intervention, we went to him and we went, where is she getting all of this?
Yeah.
And he went, her doctor. So I call the doctor and I go, I don't know what you're doing, but you don't understand that my mom. And he said everything but fuck off.
Yeah.
A doctor. So I went to my stepdad, who ended up being another big pill person, who did his daily sleeping pill. He, so insecure, like I said earlier, he kept her fucking rummied, man, because when she would go 2 days without it, she threatened to leave him if you don't, this is codependency 101.
Yeah.
And so he kept her high. And when all of this became, just like I couldn't go see her when I was a kid,
Right.
to say hi or what's going on, because it worried me. Is she sick? I didn't think at 11 she has a pill problem. I figured something's wrong with mom. That on top of the vomiting and the huge swings and, her, So it was just this constant fucking charade that, we had to pivot. That's why my brother just got, because my oldest brother, Jeff, was 9 years older than me. Paul was 6 years older. And, they got out when they could drive. So I was there many years alone. That's why my dad's like, I got to keep him out of here. And my dad's like, you can move in with me anytime, but I had a mom that said, if you leave, I'll die. Right?
Yeah.
I knew my safe haven
Yeah.
was my dad. And, man, and I know your love and your thing with your mom, because when we used to talk about your mom early.
Did you see the way his head just dipped just now?
Yeah,
You just fucked him up.
I get it.
You just fucked him up real
Well, we're
good.
talking about conditional love and unconditional love earlier, and yeah, mom had a lot of conditions.
Yeah. And, and the flirting and the stuff and the things that would happen. When I started working and I was opening for different acts, a lot of these acts were the acts that were in her generation.
Yeah.
The Sammys, the Franks, and I loved that music because I wasn't in a Zeppelin or Pink Floyd. My dad, he said to me when I was a kid, he goes, here, this is called Sammy Davis Live at the Coconut Grove. You got to see this guy one day. I was 9. And he goes, and I go, why are there 2 albums in here? He goes, kid, it's a live double album. There's nothing like it. And that was my thing. And it's funny how I wanted my dad so happy. I told him, I said, I'm gonna work with this man one day. And he goes, I believe you.
Holy shit.
That's huge.
And that, when I tell you the power of you can, and it comes from a guy you idolized. You see, my dad saved me. With all of his stuff, he never, and so, my point is stuff is powerful and the mind is powerful and what we believe is powerful. And I'm telling you, man, your mom is your image of women. Your dad is your image of men or pals. And, you got to tinker. You got to tinker with it. But I remember the love and the closeness you had for your mom, because when we used to, you and I, we clicked very early on for a lot of reasons. And I loved how you wore your heart on your sleeve. I loved how you were so honest and resilient. And I remember when you were going through the thing with your grandma and your mom, and I was like, this fucking guy, man, he can rally. He's a warrior. And I still feel that way about you. Having nothing to do with how great you are on stage, because you are a force. I've always felt that way about you. But the way you would, I would see what you were going through, and it really made me look at some of my shit, because I'm like, man, because I knew the love you had for your mom. And then as we got to know each other a little later, I saw behind the curtain a little bit.
Yeah.
And what it was doing to you. And it's a trip.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've been dealing with on the pod recently, is talking about mom, and what he has been on me lately about is I will defend her when we talk about the honesty and have an honest look at her actions or her behaviors or conditions or things like that. I'm very quick to be like, yeah, but it wasn't, she never meant to do this, or wasn't malicious, or
I did that with my dad.
Yeah, it's always defending her, and he's had to kind of check me a few times and be like, hey, it's...
Yeah, we can just talk about how it affected you. Like, we're not attacking her.
Yeah, it's really hard for me on two fronts, two things. It's really hard for me to not feel like it's an attack because she's no longer here, so she can't. It's like, who's going to stick up for her if I'm not going to?
Yeah.
And then also the other thing, when we're talking about forgiveness, it's like, I'm unpacking a lot and learning a lot about our relationship and conditional love and these things, and how do you forgive somebody for these things when they're not here to work through it with you. And that's something we've talked about a lot, about like They don't need to be here. You can
Because they
unpack
wouldn't
it
have
yours-
worked through it with you anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
They
just
couldn't go there or you wouldn't have this.
Yeah.
they don't have the capability.
Yeah, that's what a lot of it is.
Yeah.
And you know, when I forgave myself for shit, and I, you know, again, yeah, I was, I wasn't sure what I was forgetting myself for, except maybe a little bad behavior a couple times. But I put everyone before me when I was an addict.
Yeah.
I was there for everyone. I was such a high functioning alcoholic that, as close as I was with my father, he didn't know how big my problem was. My mom didn't want to know. My brothers didn't want to know. I had no one to go to go, I need help.
Yeah.
I want help. They were all oblivious to it. And I think they acted like it wasn't a problem because I was the glue to the family. And if they admitted that the glue was very fucked up, then they'd have to step up. They knew if mom had a problem, Brad would fix it. You know, if someone called the cops on my dad because he went off, you know, Brad's going to go up to Oregon and find him in the woods.
Yeah.
Literally. And I loved that. I was able to do it.
You like being needed?
To feel needed,
Yeah.
to feel important.
Yeah.
It was a reflex. I have reflux, but it was a reflex. I was so used to, okay, I was a fixer. I was a fixer, you know, and then I had a religious friend once tell me, you know, saviors get slaughtered. You know, if Jesus couldn't pull it off, you sure couldn't. And then he ended it with, and you killed our king, which didn't help. You know, that never helps. But, you know, it's interesting here's something you'll love. How much of my saving and fixing deep down was self-punishment. How trying to fix and save people who you knew were going to jump.
Yeah.
And maybe grab your arm on the way down. This is something that I had to learn to release. For the most important person in my life, ironically, is how it happened. Where I went, I can't do it for you. I am here. I needed boundaries with people in my life. I needed boundaries with my mother. It's funny, she was the most damaging, and I got my boundaries with her way too late. I needed it with her the most, but she pushed my buttons the hardest, so she kept me at bay when I really needed the boundaries.
Yeah.
That's why when people say, God, I have no regrets, I'm like, you're so full of shit.
Yeah, that's the dumbest shit I hear people say.
I have never heard that in my life. I've lived with no regret. Well, either you're an incredibly selfish fuck, or you've lived in a very boring life.
Yeah.
Life is full of regret, just like it's full of victories and everything else. If there's no regret, then you're not looking back and going, boy, I could have been better at that. That could be a regret. It doesn't mean you beat yourself up. But when I learned healthy boundaries, that was one of the quickest ways of not fixing people, but being there for them, being the strength they need. Because when we let the ones we love shit all over us, which we do all the time, and I still see myself slipping, though the ones who really abuse that, unfortunately, are no longer in my life. But what a different relationship it would have been. Do I have regrets? Sure. Would I have changed it? Well, I don't know. Because when I went to get my dad, when he was having a psychotic episode in Oregon, And, Oregon, they don't know about loud Jews, let alone a guy off his meds.
Mm-hmm.
And you pull up to your dad's little cabin, and it's surrounded by cops. And, they're yelling, "Give us your guns." And he's doing one-liners with them, literally doing shtick, Jewish vaudeville shtick.
Yeah.
Okay. And you pull up and you look at it, and your heart breaks, and you want to just take him and hold him. And the cop goes, "Don't you move,"
Mm-hmm.
It's revealing. It's revealing. But how do you have boundaries with a guy who's literally out of his body? Because I was the last one standing with my dad. I was the last one. He burned everyone out except those Jesus freaks.
Mm.
And I'm saying it with, but those fucking Jesus freaks, excuse me.
No, you don't need to.
But I will tell
bother
you,
me.
they love it when you're weak.
Oh, yeah.
They love it when you're weak because it just proves their bullshit even more.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember when he had a breakdown, and I hate that I'm talking about him because he was my hero and I love him to death. But if one person, I know this sounds so corny, listening could take some, and I know that's why you guys do it, but in Oregon, it was like he goes to jail or he goes to this place,
Mm-hmm.
where they have no tools and no ideas and everything was experimental. This is 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Or we take him to a place where he's going to have to be in a 5150, whatever they is. Is that what
Yeah,
it is?
psychotic hold. Yeah.
So he was on a psychotic hold. And they lied to me and they were like, "We're going to watch him for 24 hours and you can pick him up tomorrow." I wasn't, I wasn't that schooled on how that worked until, now I know all the ins and outs. This is one of the first episodes that went, brutally south. So I go there 24 hours later. I got his shit. I'm going to take him back home with me, get him out of the woods for a while. And the congregation is in the parking lot singing "He Shall Overcome."
Oh my God.
Okay. I go there.
So
I say-
helpful.
yeah, it was so great. I show up, and to them, they knew me.
Yeah.
They knew of me. And, my dad, God bless him, he was so far gone at this point with the religion. It was like, "We got to get Brad baptized." So, I pull up in the parking lot. I see them. I go, "Leave me the fuck alone." They start laying hands on me. Okay. I get squirrely.
Is this at like, you're pretty well known at this time, 30 years ago?
Actually, I had just, it was I just did the pilot.
Oh,
Okay.
I just did the pilot. No, I didn't do that. I didn't do Raymond. I did another pilot, and I had a show that aired 3 episodes. Was taken. Was it Raymond? Because
Okay.
it was before, but it was.
But even
But
so-
I'd been on Star Search.
Yeah, you were.
I was doing stuff like I was doing the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
Not well.
Couple episodes of Seinfeld.
I did one episode of Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Well, that was right at the time I did Raymond. Those
Oh,
came
okay.
at the same time.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but I, Star Search was big if you were inbred, and so those people saw it. But it was like, I'm fighting off these missionaries.
Yeah.
I got my dad in here in paper shoes. He's looking out the window, and I think I'm gonna, end up in their, So, my point being, when he gave me conservatory
Conservatory
Conservat-
rights or-
Conservatorship.
Yeah, I had to get. Thank you. I'm not big on the school.
Yeah.
I had to finally get that, and to get it from a guy that's a fanatical Christian to give anyone power over Jesus, because that's how we looked at it.
Wow.
He had a great line that I'll never forget because he was so loving to me. This is a guy that was beaten. by his Russian Jewish father,
Yeah.
immigrant. Okay. He would, I'd hug him, I'd kiss him. He was a bear. He was a bear of a guy from the Bronx, and so loving. But he had a great line, when I knew he went off the deep end with religion. He was always great and always great to me, and always said and always gave me little nuggets. So intellectual, smart, with zero education. And one day I was leaving him, in his apartment, and he was fighting cancer. And I go, "You got everything you need." I got him an apartment right near me. He didn't want to live with me. I got it. He was a strong dude. And he goes, "Remember, you're my second favorite son." And I said, which is so Robert. This was, and I said, "I know, I'm hearing that a lot, Dad." And he goes, "No, not Raymond. You know who my favorite son is?" And I went, "I do, Dad. It's Jesus."
Oh,
and I
God.
said, "I know." And I said, "You have good taste." I said, because the guy, does a lot of sleight of hand with the wine and the water and the bread from the, So we had humor, and I would make him laugh about the Jesus thing. But it for sure took part of our relationship from me, because he lost a lot of his humor when he became fanatical, and he lost, his belief in everything became so myopic because if it's not in the book. And then he started teaching Bible study, and then he started to feel that he may have a healing power, and religion and bipolarity, not a good mix. But it's funny, you see that a lot. You see it in homeless people. You see it in guys that come out in prison that saw the light. I think religion is everyone's last call. I think it's the last thing they grab onto when everyone's left them.
Yeah.
So so I'll ask you, there are people who grab onto religion that are able to turn it around.
Yes.
What do you...
Turn what around, though?
Their life.
Hey, whatever works.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
I wish I had faith,
Yeah, but you know what? All religion is, when it works, there are some great lessons in there.
Yeah.
Surrendering, doing the right thing, loving thy neighbor without your cock.
Yeah.
There are things that are a great way to, it's when it becomes an excuse. It's when it becomes your go-to. When it becomes judgmental. Supposedly Jesus didn't judge. He hung out with a hooker,
lepers and prostitutes.
if you didn't have a limp, you couldn't join them.
Yeah.
That was the thing. But man has a wonderful way of spinning it. And my father spun it, because of the mental illness. He had, the Third Testament that he had written that was kind of like what he thought Jesus really meant. Interpretation is what makes you hate religion, because that's when you take it away and you spin it, your own way. You know what I mean? It's like this fucking administration that all they could say about those babies that were killed at that church the other day. We will pray for you. We will pray for you. Fuck you. They were shot when they were praying.
Yeah.
You just see, that's where religion is the ultimate cop out. God wanted you in heaven. Well, fuck you. Yeah. I wanted them in my house. I wanted to put them to bed. They were my kids. Don't tell me what God wanted. That's where it gets dicey. And you see more and more people leaving churches, leaving religion, because it doesn't add up in a society where mental health, thanks to people like yourselves, is starting to become the forefront of true happiness and what it really means. Parents see a child struggling, I'll put him in Little League. Yeah, let's take his insecurities, his fears, his self-doubt, and put him around a bunch of guys that could fucking hit a fastball.
Yeah.
That'll help them.
Yeah.
They have no idea because they didn't have the tools, So,
I was in Scotland last fall or 2 falls ago, and one of the best things I was asking about all the churches, 'cause there's churches everywhere, beautiful old churches,
and I love going to them.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
I
they're
love going to
gorgeous.
the cathedrals.
Yeah.
I love it.
And they're everywhere in Europe.
Yep.
You know, and
Yeah.
because we were in London, we were in Scotland, and so we were looking at all these churches, and I asked somebody, I said, "Well, you guys aren't religious here, but there's a church on every corner," and they said the best thing. They go, "Yeah, we evolved."
Wow.
And I was like, God damn, I wish America
Why
would do
can't
that.
we?
Yeah, like they were just like, yeah, we don't.
Why can't we?
we
I have a
evolved
theory.
for that.
What is it?
I truly think the biggest draw to religion is afterlife. I think if you remove afterlife, what's left?
Oh,
Be a
that's
good
great.
person. I think everybody's so scared of life ending that they need an idea that it'll keep going somehow.
Or that they'll see somebody that they've lost, or what, you know,
Sure.
like that after, whatever you're marketing that afterlife.
Yeah, I
as,
think if you remove
That's a great
afterlife
point.
from religion, what's left? Morals? Principle?
Yeah.
Like
You
what
have
is
a little
it?
community there, I think, but
There is a little community, you know, very judgmental.
yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
parameters that go with that.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's
Yeah.
the problem. You know, no solutions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so. And you know, when my dad was operated on for his first cancer, this is in like I was 20. It was 1980.
Jesus, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, his scar was a cross,
Yeah, of course it was.
right?
So
And
later when he
baby,
got religious, he was like,
baby,
I'm already branded.
babe, that to a T,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
a T.
Yeah. God,
You know, to a T. So everything.
they love a sign.
Yeah, they love a sign, man.
Oh, they'll make it.
God.
fit.
and that's a
Yeah.
thing. But you know, if we spent half the time working on the life that we're having now, as opposed to rallying for the afterlife,
Mm-hmm.
how great would life be? You
Yeah.
know, I mean, that's you know, that's the key. You know, I mean, there's no afterlife. You know, I believe that there's something about the soul and the spirit and the
Yeah.
stuff. I'm big on that and the universe shit. I mean, I just, you know, I know there's something else. It's not a guy in a beard writing shit down.
Yeah.
It's not that.
Yeah.
But I believe in the power of man
Yeah.
and hope and renewal and all that stuff, because I've seen so many incredibly powerful people get that second chance. And when you listen to them, it sounds like they've been to heaven and back and going, heaven can be here, you know. It's just dealing with man.
And we know that.
Grrr.
Jesus.
That's a bear.
It's not.